Cebu's earthquake risk. What Mindanao might trigger next. On September 30, 2025, a powerful magnitude 6.9 earthquake ripped through northern Cebu. For 30 terrifying seconds, it felt like the world was coming apart. It was a destructive tremor and the strongest ever recorded in the area. A brutal wake-up call for a region many thought was relatively safe. Just weeks before, a series of massive quakes had rocked Mindanao, hundreds of kilometers to the south. Now, with Cebu reeling, a terrifying question started spreading like wildfire online. Are these quakes connected? Was the shaking in Mindanao a warning of something far more devastating to come? Could Mindanao be triggering a deadly seismic chain reaction, aimed straight at the heart of Cebu? The answer is a lot more complex, and in some ways, a lot more frightening than a simple yes or no. Let's get the biggest fear out of the way first. You see a major earthquake in one part of the Philippines, then another happens somewhere else. It's natural to think they're linked, like a fuse burning toward an explosion. This idea of a domino effect, where a quake in Mindanao could directly trigger one in Cebu, is a scary thought, but according to the experts on the front lines, it's just not true. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLCS, has been crystal clear. Following the recent quakes, Director Teresito Bacolcol stated that the tremors in Mindanao and the one in Cebu are completely unrelated. They come from, in his words, all independent earthquake generators. To get why, you have to zoom out. Way out. The Philippines sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire, a nearly 40,000-kilometer horseshoe of intense geological activity, where about 90% of the world's earthquakes happen. Our islands are squeezed between two massive tectonic plates, the Philippine Sea Plate and the Eurasian Plate. This constant pushing and shoving has created a highly fractured and stressed zone called the Philippine Mobile Belt. Think of it less like a single, long fuse, and more like a floor covered in thousands of separate, unconnected firecrackers. The Mindanao quakes came from deep movements along the massive Philippine Trench, a subduction zone far offshore. The Cebu quake, however, was caused by something entirely different. The distance between these two regions is over 500 kilometers, and while a massive quake can shift stress to nearby faults, the distance to Cebu is just too great for a direct transfer of energy. So, if Mindanao didn't trigger Cebu's quake, what did? The answer was found right under Cebu's own waters. Scientists from PHIVOLCS, racing to the epicenter, found the culprit, a previously unmapped underwater fault that had been dormant for over 400 years. They named it the Bogo Bay Fault. This wasn't a chain reaction, it was a ghost from the past, a local threat that had just woken up. The magnitude 6.9 quake on September 30th wasn't just a tragedy, it was a revelation. It proved that Cebu, a bustling hub of commerce and culture home to millions, has its own unique and potent seismic dangers that have nothing to do with other islands. The Bogo Bay Fault produced a shallow earthquake, only about 5 kilometers deep, and shallow quakes are notoriously destructive because the energy is released so close to the surface, causing much more violent shaking. The effects were devastating. In the northern towns of Bogo, Medellin, and Don Bantayan, the shaking was catastrophic. In total, 79 people lost their lives, and more than 1,200 were injured. Over 159,000 homes were damaged, and more than 7,700 houses simply collapsed. Hospitals, churches, and roads were torn apart. Tragically, a village in Bogo, built for the survivors of Typhoon Haiyan, was severely damaged, a devastating blow for a community that had already endured so much. Cebu's local geology also played a villainous role. Much of the island is made of limestone, a soft, porous rock that creates a karst terrain. This means the ground is riddled with caves, sinkholes, and underground voids. When seismic waves travel through this kind of soft material, they don't just pass through. Instead, they can linger and amplify, shaking structures more violently and for longer, which increases the risk of collapse. Following the quake, the Mines and Geosciences Bureau issued advisories as new sinkholes appeared and ground cracks widened across several municipalities. The terror didn't stop when the shaking did. In the days and weeks that followed, thousands of aftershocks were recorded, with the strongest hitting magnitude 5.1, keeping residents on edge and afraid to re-enter their homes. This wasn't a distant threat from another island. This was Cebu's own seismic nightmare, born from a fault no one even knew was there. As horrific as it was, the 2025 Cebu earthquake didn't just come out of nowhere. It was the latest and most violent chapter in the region's shaky history. While not as seismically active as other parts of the country, the Visayas region is squeezed from both sides by powerful tectonic forces. Many Cebuanos vividly remember October 15, 2013. That morning, a magnitude 7.2 earthquake with an epicenter in neighboring Bohol sent shockwaves across the central Visayas. In Cebu, the quake caused 15 deaths and widespread destruction. The bell tower of the iconic Basilica Minore del Santo Niño, one of the country's oldest churches, crumbled to the ground, a heartbreaking symbol of the immense power just beneath the surface. And there were others. A magnitude 6.7 quake in nearby Negros in 2012 also caused significant damage and casualties, with its shaking strongly felt in Cebu. Historical records show at least 8 strong earthquakes, from magnitude 5.0 to 7.2, have struck Cebu and its neighbors between the late 1800s and 2013. What the 2025 quake made terrifyingly clear is that the danger isn't just from neighboring faults. Fivolx has now identified multiple fault systems running directly through Cebu itself. The central Cebu fault system cuts across 18 different cities and municipalities, including the densely populated Metro Cebu area, which stretches from Danao in the north to Karkar in the south. This system is made of several segments, and each one packs a terrifying punch. Faults like the Balamban and Central Highway faults could generate quakes up to magnitude 6.9. And then there's the Uling Masaba fault, the longest in the system, at 50 kilometers. Scientists estimate it has the potential to produce a magnitude 7.1 earthquake, an event that would be comparable to the devastating 2013 Bohol quake. The threat isn't a chain reaction from Mindanao. The threat is woven into the very fabric of the land Cebu is built on. So, if the Mindanao quake didn't trigger Cebu geologically, what did it trigger? A chain reaction of awareness. The series of powerful quakes across the country in 2025 served as a brutal nationwide wake-up call. For Cebu, it turned abstract warnings into a tangible, urgent reality. In the immediate aftermath, Governor Pamela Baracuatro declared a state of calamity, activating a special disaster preparedness plan for the 11 towns and 1 city still reeling from the quake. This wasn't just a standard response, it was a targeted emergency plan for the thousands of displaced residents living in temporary shelters in tent cities. These communities are incredibly vulnerable, not just to aftershocks, but to other hazards. With a new tropical depression named Tino approaching, the risk of flooding and landslides in these shaken areas became a top priority. The focus shifted from just reacting to acting before the next disaster could strike, with orders for preemptive evacuation once wind signals are raised. It's a race against time to sustain essential services like food, water, and healthcare while the ground is still unstable and the weather is turning. This new awareness is rippling through all levels of government. The Department of the Interior and local government (DILG) instructed local engineering teams to conduct widespread inspections of critical infrastructure. Recognizing the immense psychological toll, the provincial government has also launched programs for mental health and trauma support. A 1-year recovery plan is now underway, addressing everything from housing to the 500 schools that were damaged. Let's be real, while scientists can identify faults, no one can predict the exact time and date of the next big earthquake. That uncertainty is terrifying, but what we do with that knowledge is what matters. Preparation is power. It's the only thing we can control. So what can you do? A lot, actually. It starts with the basics. Know the safest spots in your home, away from windows or heavy furniture. Practice the drop, cover, and hold on technique. It's a simple action that has been proven to save lives. Next, prepare a go bag or an emergency kit. This should have enough water, non-perishable food, and medical supplies for at least 3 days. Keep copies of important documents, a flashlight, extra batteries, and a battery-powered radio. Make sure everyone in your family knows where it is. Finally, have a plan. Where will you meet if you get separated? How will you contact each other if phone lines are down? Know how to shut off your home's main utilities, like gas and electricity, to prevent fires after a quake. These simple steps can make a life or death difference. That idea of a seismic chain reaction, a single event in Mindanao setting off a catastrophe in Cebu, is a narrative born from fear. The geological reality is that these were separate events, but the danger to Cebu is no less real. In fact, it's more intimate. The threat lies in local faults, some that have been silent for centuries, and others we are just now discovering. The earthquakes of 2025, in Mindanao and especially in Cebu, weren't a connected geological event, but a shared national trauma. They have forced a reckoning with the ground beneath our feet. They remind us that the entire Philippines is a land of immense geological power, a power that is both beautiful and terrifyingly indifferent. We can't stop the earth from moving, we can't silence the faults, but we are not helpless. The tremors that shook Cebu have awakened a new sense of urgency. They have triggered a chain reaction of preparedness, planning, and community action. And in the face of an unpredictable future, that is our greatest and most powerful defense. What are your own experiences with earthquakes in the Philippines? Share your stories and your preparedness tips in the comments below. Your experience could help someone else be ready. And if you found this information valuable, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the science that shapes our world. Stay safe and stay prepared.